24 teams in contention for the state title. Next Saturday morning, there will be but 4 left. You can catch all the action of the 76th Annual State Championship here on your station for high school sports, WTTV Channel 4. Tom and I will be down at Market Square. Hilliard Gates will join us. And Tom, it's just a thrill to be a participant in the Final Four, even from the fringe areas of the media such as we are. It's a great, great feeling.
Well, it's one of those things this year. Nobody can really saddle one of the horses and think that that's the one that's going to make it. So the tournaments today we're seeing not only here but in the other locations in the state, maybe a lot of surprises before this thing's over.
In fact, as you look at the field goal numbers coming into today's game, Tom, normally I can sit down and as a broadcaster you try to do your homework as far in advance as you can, and you try to predict who's going to be where. When I looked at this field here today, looked at the statistics, looked at the coaches, looked at the enthusiasm, it was impossible to come out with a favorite.
Well, you can make a case for any team being able to survive this today.
Basil Mulvey up directing traffic. His ball club is down by 7, 43-36. Still a lot of time. 5 minutes and 20 seconds to play, and they get the steal. Woody had it and lost it. Now the ball is free again, and it's out of bounds. Good strong effort that time by Kevin Scripture, but he couldn't haul it in. So Warren Central gets it again.
Well, you can see how intense Kevin was to get to that basketball, and these ball clubs are good competitive outfits.
They're both going to be worn to a frazzle when the game is over, and yet another game to go tonight for the winners. Jeff George, sensational play. George has only 4 points in the second half, but he has 14 of the day with an average of 18-7, and the lead goes back to 45-36, a 9-point differential. And again, Connersville staying with their game plan. Lobbing it down low, and it hit the bottom of the backboard. They try to go to Richard Henry. Here's the lead pass up court, knocked away by Gazelle. And out comes Dwayne Futch for the basketball again. Futch has been everywhere today.
Yeah, they've got them in the man now. Connersville's finally had to go to the man-to-man. Let's see if they can handle them one-on-one.
Here's Watts. Watts again. Great rebound. Swami, first field goal, 3rd point, averaging 5.3 per game. And again, the relentless pressure, and the lead goes back to, well, it's now at its biggest point of the game at 11 at 47-36, and out of bounds to Warren Central.
Well, right now things are going from bad to worse for Connersville. I think they are trying to speed up a little bit, but it's tough to do things you can't do when you're under the gun like this, and well, we're seeing the result of it.
I think, Tom, you mentioned this earlier, and I know we talked about game plans. Every coach comes in with a game plan, and what has effectively happened is nothing wrong with Basil's game plan, but Warren Central has simply been, they've taken them out of their game plan.
No, you always have to give the opposition credit. You figure they practiced during the week also, and they prepared for the contest just as well.
There's a bumping foul against Connersville.
Now, Jim Woody's going to be whistled for that one.
Number 1 on Jim. Basil's won 7 consecutive sectionals at Connersville, 4 regionals, a semi-state, and a state championship. And they finished up tied this year with Shelbyville and Bloomington South. Well, the top spot in the South Central Athletic Conference, records of 6-1, and we'll see Shelbyville in the second game against Newcastle. Four minutes, 5 seconds to play in the game. An 11-point lead for the Warren Central Warriors. Oh, that's a good, strong move by Richard Henry. Henry has scored 10 points, 4 here in the second half. His average is at 15 per game, so they've not gotten the scoring out of Richard Henry they would have liked. Deflected out of bounds, belongs to Warren Central.
Oh, Warren really throws that ball down the floor that I know Gary Jacob over there has trouble swallowing at times, but it seems to work out.
Looper. Craig with 13. At a 49-38 lead. 3 minutes and 41 seconds to play. A near steal, but Gazelle has the ball, dishes it inside. And a good move to the hoop that time by Henry to no avail. And Abner's got a couple of points. Donnie getting his first 2 of the game, and you know, now, in fact, he wants a timeout. Excellent point. Gary Jacob is just irate. There he is, just on the upper left-hand corner. There he is. Your point was so beautifully taken, Tom, because at that point, and he won't even go talk to him right now. You've got yourself an 11-point lead, and you're throwing 80-foot passes. That's going to drive a coach nuts.
Well, it's what we made mention of a moment ago, and that is the fact that Connersville got themselves in a spot where they have to rely upon Warren Central making some errors in order to get them back, because they're almost at the edge of not being able to do it on their own. And Warren is, in fact, doing that, and Connersville, hopefully, in their standpoint, will be able to take advantage of it.
And Warren has been very effective in their half-court offense. They've been very patient when they had to, well, not when they had to be, when they wanted to be patient. But instead, they're getting that ball and trying to rip it out of there. You know, there are some teams, Tom, that simply, no impact or no reflection on coaching, they simply only play one way sometimes.
Well, I think it's very difficult when you're taking kids this age to try and get them to fully understand mentally all the aspects of the game, not just from the standpoint of their approach to it, but to understand the game of basketball. And when you're expecting them to understand situations and everything, it may almost be too much. They're going to do what their natural ability will allow them to do in most instances. And Warren's kids, their natural ability is, let's move, let's go, and it's pretty difficult to change the tempo.
Well, there's also an excitement factor involved. They are 3 minutes and 26 seconds away from going further than any Warren Central school has ever gone. In fact, they are there right now. 49-40 is the score, but by that I mean they have gone further than any Warren Central school has ever gone. Connersville hitting 43%. Warren Central's up to 54% from the field right now. Oh, all by himself on the near side with a shot that wouldn't go the first time. It tapped away was Abner, and here comes Jeff George out of the traffic with the basketball. The Looper. Well, let's see if they settle down a little bit.
Yeah, let's see right here what Gary Jacob told them at the timeout.
Here is Futch. We're inside 3 minutes. Ball to send everybody down to the baseline, setting picks and letting the guys roll off those picks.
Warren has Yogi Henderson back in now also.
Yogi got himself in foul trouble early. He has only 3 points with an average of 9-2. Here is a foul. And that will become the next factor in this ball game. Gazelle, that's number 3 on him, but they're just about going to have to foul to try to get that basketball back.
Warren has really had a miserable day at the free throw line. They've attempted 13 and have been successful on only 5.
I mentioned the assistant coaches for Warren Central. For Connersville, Steve Dunnington of Northern Colorado, Dwayne Wall of Indiana Central, and Larry Miller of Valdosta State. Help out head coach Basil Malby. Dwayne Futch, 69% shooter. He is 2 out of 3 from the stripe. Well, if Connersville comes back and wins this thing, Tom, that'll be one of the factors in the ballgame, that free throw shooting. 2 minutes, 35 seconds to play in the game. 49-40. It is Warren Central in front by 9. And now it is 7. Kevin Scripture has 7. Scripture has quietly gotten the job done, more so here in the second half than the first. And with 2:20 to play, Warren Central's lead is 49-42. Futch playing keep away with Ralph Gazelle. Looper. Here's Watts. And Looper again. 15 points for Craig Looper. That's 2 above his average of 12-9.
That may have been the coup de grace right there, Jerry.
That puts it back to a 9-point lead with 1 minute and 52 seconds to play. Scripture again. Short this time. Jeff George pulls off the rebound, comes out of the heavy traffic with it. It looks like Warren Central is going to move into the final 8 in the state. They've got a 9-point lead with 1 minute and 40 seconds to play. Here's a foul reaching in, called on Abner, his 4th. Coming up shortly after this first ball game, it'll be Shelbyville at 21-3 and Newcastle at 19-6. And the way these two clubs have played, Tom, the winner's going to get out of here in a hurry and find themselves a motel room. In fact, they met this morning at 7 o'clock for breakfast and a shoot-around session out at Warren Central High School. And so they've been together all day long as Jeff misses the free throw. And again, 4 free throw shooting, but they come out with a rebound. Jeff George dishes inside. Good play and a couple of points this time for Kwame Watts. Jeff George, by the way, in the ball game now with 14 points and 10 rebounds, we are told. Gary Ross keeping our stats with us alongside, and then John Osler and the stat crew on the far side of the floor here in Hinkle Fieldhouse. All by his lonesome was Henry. Almost missed the rim with it, and George just very wisely got out of the way and still came away with the rebound.
Well, Henry was anticipating the defender. They were just going to let him lay it up.
It's an 11-point lead with exactly 1 minute to go, and Warren Central totally in command. Jeff George, basket will not count. Foul is called prior to the shot, and that'll be the 5th on Donnie Abner. Abner, who came off the bench for head coach Basil Mulvey, will go back to the bench now, and Donnie leaves with only 2 points on a fourth-period field goal. There is head coach Basil Mulvey, and a timeout has been taken.
I think that may be Connersville's final timeout. Oh, they may have one remaining. I really can't tell officially, but according to my figures, that would be their final timeout. 58 seconds to play. They're down by 11, and certainly things looking well for the Warren Central Warriors.
A peek into the Connersville Spartans. Superintendent Dr. Ben Jennings, Dr. Stephen Kaiser was the principal. Mike Cirk was the AD. I talked with Mike before the ball game. Enrollment of 1,708 students, 4-year school. Warren Central, Dr. John Light is the superintendent. Ernie Metcalf is the principal. Jack Gary the AD, and they got 2,444 students. Jack Gary's had himself a busy year. Tom Hession, if Warren Central wins this ball game, then their boys basketball program will have gone as far as their girls did this year, which was to the semi-state championship. And ADs tend to get real busy in when they get involved with all these programs.
A lot of details you have to handle.
Tremendous amount of details.
Might mention Dr. John Light, the Warren Central superintendent, came to that position from the superintendency at Connersville a couple years ago.
Well, so he can root both ways, I suppose, today. Here's a field goal percentage. It's really been up and down for Warren Central. At one time, they were down into the 45 or 46 category. Now they're up to 56%.
Now, this second half, actually, about 3 minutes into this second half, they have really done pretty well with their shooting. Turnovers, Connersville 22, Warren Central 17, which is not excessive for the type of ball game we've seen, with the pace being what it has been.
So Jeff George goes to the free throw line. Well, what a year this young man has had. He has been recruited and recruited and recruited. Went through a bad spell early in the year with the flu bug, and through it all has somehow maintained a level of cool that's allowed him to move that ability to the basketball court and eventually to the baseball field. He has 15 points. He has 10 rebounds. So that's almost double his rebounding average, and we're just now approaching his scoring average, which is 18-7. 54-42, that's the biggest lead of the game. And Connersville gets a couple back off Vance Gibson's fourth point of the game. Still plenty of pressure. Final 45 seconds and a foul. It'll be on Gibson. May take an eternity to play the final 45 seconds of this ball game, because Connersville's only hope right now was to commit the personal foul.
Yeah, we're going to see some activity at the free throw stripe as Connersville gamely trying to hang in there, down by 10. Shelbyville Newcastle, the ball game coming up. Stay tuned for that one. They had a 2-point Shelbyville victory at Newcastle during the regular season, so don't think that you can run away from your sets. Come back, you'll see another good one.
Jeff George hitting. Warren Central has won 14 consecutive games and 22 on the year. Both those are school records. Still not very good free throw shooting. 42 seconds to play here in the ball game. 55-44. Warren Central leads, and the lead is chopped as Henry gets a couple of points. Richard now with 12, 3 shy of a scoring norm. Here is Futch and a reach-in foul on Gibson. And that'll be 5 on Vance Gibson. He's gone. Vance will leave with 4 points. He was the starting center, and his average was 7.5 per game and 6 rebounds per contest. He's gone with 5 fouls.
Well, he's a junior performer. He and Jim Woody, the sophomore off the bench, will be returning next year, of the 6 that have done most of the playing here this afternoon.
I notice, Tom, that Basil has 4 sophomores on this 12-man roster, so he's got some kids to work for.
That has been a good class at Connersville. They had an outstanding freshman club a year ago, and they'll probably be a very competitive basketball team again next season. With a little less game experience at the varsity level.
Last year, Tom, they were 17-7, lost to Richmond in the Richmond Regional Championship game, but their JV squad last year was 20-0. So you know that's part of that building process. When you look out at the programs, and Warren Central has the same thing. That JV, that freshman team, that's where these varsity clubs are born from. Futch with 13. And as Tom pointed out, still not much to write home about in the free throw shooting category. Jeff George. Final 20 seconds in this basketball game with 58-46 your lead. And that'll be cut to 10 on the bucket by Bobby Stapleton. And we'll get a timeout and a massive array of substitutions now for Connersville. Tom Hessian will break free now, move to the other end of the arena, and we'll grab the winning coach. Get a brief comment from him immediately following this game. A look into the Warren Central Warriors huddle. Gary Jacob, graduate of Cathedral High School here in Indianapolis, and Mount Marty College in Yankton, South Dakota. 3-year varsity player there. First year at Warren Central, his first varsity head coaching job. Now, he was an assistant with Rod Clark, who was one of his assistants. And they coached the Broad Ripple freshman team to 19-0 in the city championship in 1977 and 78. And then that team went on to win the state championship in 1980 under Bill Smith. So he's got a good background. George Dow with 10 rebounds in the ball game, as we mentioned. And here is this the final score, Gary? Final score, Anderson has defeated Lafayette Jeff 66-57. Norm Held is a magician. That is a ball club that really had to battle through regular season play, and not a lot of people gave them much hope of getting out of their regional. What with Noblesville going in there, but they have just won the afternoon game of the West Lafayette semi-state 66-57, and will now move on to the championship game tonight. At Fort Wayne, here's the number that we have there for you. In the fourth quarter, Northrop has Marion down by 4. I'm not sure how much time is left there, but that's the story. A 4-point lead for Fort Wayne Northrop. Now we go to the final 14 seconds of our contest here at Hinkle Fieldhouse, and it is Futz getting it across the line and losing it. And here comes Connersville, but it's too little too late. And the rebound by George with 4, with 3. George throws it in the air. The time will run out. That's it. The ball game is over. It is a 10-point win for the Warriors of Warren Central High School. 58-48 is the final. Their biggest lead of the day was 12 points in the fourth period. And, of course, at the end of the first half, Warren Central had a 10-point lead about halfway through that second period. Connersville came storming back and took